the others would have said, well, that's similar to me, but it's not as, somehow not as moving to them. So, you know, it's been an amazing, amazing experience where so many people have, you know, come to me with this kind of response that, you know, it's fulfilling as an artist, but it's also very challenging as a human being because their fight is real. And a lot of what I thought I was doing with this movie was commenting on the colonial period, the Manifest Destiny period in American history, so much of which is in the past. And, you know, we don't have the cavalry charging in and you know, cutting down whole villages now. You know, we think we've evolved beyond that, when in fact it is happening in other countries. You know, and there have been incidents in Peru just recently where you know, guns were used on protesting indigenous people who fought back with bows and arrows, and deaths on both sides. You know, so in order to you know, forestall, you know, future violence and bloodshed, you know, we have to be having this dialogue because these people are informed enough now in this world of you know, rapid spread of information. They're informed enough to know that they have a legal basis. They certainly have a moral and ethical basis for their fight, but they also have a legal basis, so they're fighting back.
The wars in Iraq and Afghanistan seem to be an undercurrent of your movie.
Sure.
Were you making a commentary there?
Oh yeah, absolutely, clearly. Because, you know, I feel that this whole climate change thing is never really going to get solved unless we really have full cost accounting and we fully burden the cost of what we're doing. And by what we're doing, I mean burning fossil fuels and so on. And if you don't see that the cost of gas isn't $3 a gallon, that it's, you know, $10 or $15 a gallon, when you pay for all the military actions necessary to secure our oil supply lines and to secure our way of consuming energy here in North America, that's what you're paying for. You know, it's just this invisible tax, and we're all paying it. And, you know, I mean, I'm a Canadian citizen, but I live in the U.S. and I pay taxes here, and you know, so I'm helping to pay for the war in Iraq, the war in Afghanistan, and why are we there militarily? Oh yeah, sure, because we got attacked. Why did we get attacked? Because we've been messing around in the Middle East, you know, the Middle East region since the 30s. You know, spending billions of dollars a day there, you know, in energy. And, you know, we're dependent on it. You know, what, 70% of our oil comes from offshore sources. We're dependent on it. This nation would grind to a stop. So, you know, we've put ourselves into a situation where we have to take these unethical military actions. Well, I consider Iraq unethical anyway. Afghanistan was a little more righteous because that was, you know, direct response to an attack. But the point is, why are we putting ourselves in that situation in the first place? We spend all this money on military action to preserve, you know, to preserve the flow of oil to ourselves. And, you know, so to me it always goes back to energy. It always loops back to energy and our really almost complete lack of a coherent energy policy in this country.
Now, you mentioned you're from Canada, you have citizenship from Canada. Mm-hmm. As I understand it, you haven't taken up U.S. citizenship.
No.
Can you tell us why?
Yeah, I actually had thought about it, and after the 2004 election, I decided not to.
With the re-election of President Bush.
You got it. Yeah, absolutely. I don't need to say any more on that, though, I don't think. That was my little act of protest.
When you saw Palestinians dressed up as the Na'vi, what were your thoughts on that?
Well, obviously they're responding to their sense of being oppressed by saying, okay, guys, if everybody in the world can relate to the Na'vi, you know, being crushed by a large force, then you can see that we're in the same situation. I need to go spend some time there and really look at both sides of that issue. I'm not going to weigh in on that because I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert on that region. I'm not an expert at anything except making movies, really, but I have studied some of these other issues with respect to energy and indigenous rights, and it's a little bit different there because you know, you're not dealing with the wholesale displacement of people out in the rainforest for the purposes of the continued economic growth. It's a little bit, I think it's a little bit different. But again, I don't want to weigh in on that until I know more.
There seems to be some references with the light and the colors in your movie to the medicinal aspects of Indigenous life. Are you making any kind of references to alternative medicine that people in the West might not be exposed to?
I think that really what I'm trying to do with the design in the film is to try to touch a kind of a mystical or spiritual aspect to the indigenous worldview, and value system. The ones that are undisturbed, that are really uncontaminated by Western civilization, really believe things quite fundamentally differently than we do. They really believe their connection to the flow, the cycles of energy in their world. And I actually heard it expressed by an indigenous leader today that here in our technical society, we think of life as a line, and they think of it as a circle. And when you think of life as a line, you don't worry about what's behind you, and what you leave behind, But if you think of it as a circle, then you take responsibility for the future generations. And it's the seventh generation concept, And they have a very interesting expression, which is, tread softly upon the earth because the faces of the unborn look up at you. Which, if everybody just thought that, they would do things very differently. The bankers, the industrialists, the CEOs, our political leaders, they have children, They need they have a conscience, they have a heart, some of them. Probably the majority, actually. But unfortunately, they also have a kind of mandate from market forces to do their jobs a certain way. And people are going to have to break out of that cycle. For me, the responsibility in a subsequent film is going to be to take what I've learned now that I'm involved with a lot of these people, with these leaders and with these cultures. Take what I've learned, take their issues, and incorporate them into the next film in a way that's meaningful.
James Cameron, thank you very much.
The film director James Cameron, whose movie Avatar is the #1 grossing movie of all time. He was speaking while attending the United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues here in New York. Special thanks to John Gerberg and Honey Massoud. He was interviewed by Democracy Now!'s Aaron Mate. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. We'll be back in a minute.
É pau, é pedra, é o fim do caminho. É resto de toco, é pouco sozinho. É caco de vidro, é a vida, é o sol. É a noite, é a morte. É o laço, é o anzol. É peroba do campo, nó da madeira. Cainga, candeia, é uma tita pereira. É madeira de vento, tombo da ribanceira. É o mistério profundo, é o queira ou não queira. É o vento ventando, é o fim da ladeira. É a viga, é o vão, festa da cumieira. É a chuva chovendo, é conversa ribeira das águas de março. É o fim da canseira, é o pé, é o chão. É a marcha estradeira, passarinho na mão, pedra de atiradeira. Uma ave no céu, uma ave no chão. É um regato, é uma fonte, é um pedaço de pão. É o fundo do poço, é o fim do caminho. No rosto desgosto, é pouco sozinho. É um estrepe, é um prego, é uma ponta, é